For July the 26th, 2024, we talk about the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, When the Past Was Around, Still Wakes the Deep, and much more. Welcome to Level 509. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Moxie.
I'm Jala Prendez.
I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Welcome back, Jala.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah. What's going on?
Well, I had a hurricane since the last time I was on.
I didn't want to be the one to ask you about it because self-evidently you're alive, but I've never been through one of those, so I didn't want to be like, how was that wind?
Well, actually, I did not post this on social media just out of deference for the people who actually, had trees and shit fall on people and kill them and all that mess. But there is a video that exists of me sitting on my porch playing Baldur's Gate 3 on my Steam Deck because it was so fucking hot in the house after the air died.
Yeah.
So, I was just out on the porch in the middle of the hurricane just chilling out. Now, it wasn't like, this is a porch that is covered on, sides. It's very protected there. Yes, you can see the wind going in the background and the rain and everything, but it was not so severe that I couldn't be out there or anything. Bear in mind, I have been on the Gulf Coast / in Florida, in Miami for hurricanes since I was little. So, there's a certain amount of, I've been through this sometimes. So, the hurricane itself, it did do some damage to my house and in whatever, but the primary problem was with the power, which I have been tweeting about and, sharing stuff about and, otherwise just kind of talking to whoever will listen to me and shaking my fist about, all of this. Because, back when we had the 2021 snowpocalypse that happened that shut down all of Texas because ERCOT, the power grid people, were horrible and weren't doing maintenance and infrastructure work. And everything just was so messed up and there was so much damage, billions of dollars of damage as a result of that because the power died and was gone for so long. There was that, and that was the comeuppance for the power grid people. Mm-hmm. But here in the third largest city in the U.S., we had our power knocked out by a Category 1 storm for almost 2 weeks. I mean, for me, it was a full week without power. And we had a generator running for my dad because he can't be without his oxygen machine and some other things. He will actually die. And there were a lot of people who have health conditions who died after the hurricane because of the power being out for so long. And anyway, so Centerpoint is the new person that everyone is upset at because the CEO, even back with Hurricane Ike in 2008, they were upset at Centerpoint for not doing the infrastructure work to maintain primarily the trees, because that's what really caused the biggest problems during this hurricane was all the downed trees and stuff knocking over power lines and everything because they weren't maintaining the vegetation. And back during Ike, there was a big outcry, and the only thing that was done to them was you have to report how much money you spend on infrastructure. So they did, but nothing happened. And then the numbers were pulled and it's $10 per person per year or per household or something per year, something nonsense. They are not doing a damn thing. And so now I guess bright side is that they have done a lot of tree trimming as a result of this storm. My concern is we have a very active storm season. This is very early in the season for it to have already had a named storm coming and hitting us. There's going to be more. So, the concern for me is the next time, if it's a stronger hurricane, then what about the power then for my dad, and what is that situation? And am I going to have enough gas for the generator? And is the generator going to go out and all of these things? So, lots of stuff. real tough. But and then at the end of the week, I finally got my power back, and then politics happened, and then I don't know, like the politics have been a roller coaster. So but positive news is there were some shifts in my podcasting schedule as a result of, as you might imagine, having like 2 weeks of being out for storm damage and power outage and all the rest. However, I do have currently a guest spot on the podcast Nostalgium Arcanum on the Predator movie, which dropped early this week. And then also the day that this episode of The Level drops, I will already have the first episode of a 2-part LUNAR, the Silver Star, and Silver Star Story Complete podcast out. And then the next one will come out the next week. So I don't normally do back-to-back weeks, but because I missed the topical episode for this month as a result of the hurricane, and I could not record during the last couple of weeks, we are doing a 2-parter, and it's split up into 2 weekly episodes. So all of that will be available coming up soon, and some of that is already available, which is cool.
Nice.
And then also my birthday's at the end of the week, and so that's that. I don't know.
Happy birthday, Jala.
Yay. I just want things to stay calm for a day. That would be nice.
It would. Yeah. Sorry, you might as well ask for the moon.
I know, right? So I'm just gonna
I'm not
shut
sure.
myself.
I've seen Majora's Mask. Please don't ask for the moon.
Right? Then it could be Moons of Madness, and then I could get mad at that game again for not letting me actually have my character get all jittery from drinking too much coffee because I sat at that coffee maker and made 15 pots. And nothing happened to my character. I was like, come on.
I like the idea of an Eldritch Jala theme where the madness is just being angry with Cthulhu and not going crazy.
Right. Well, I did play some games, though, as a result of having zero energy to do anything else around storm cleanup and just sheer exhaustion and nerves. So I do have some games to talk about, which is great. But what about everybody else? What has everybody else been up to when I've been out of pocket?
Yeah, Ben, how about you?
I think I talked about this last week. I went to Canada over the weekend, which was nice. Canadians are super friendly. It definitely seems like a utopia sometimes. But yeah, it was a good time. And then fingers crossed, I have tentative plans this weekend to take a croquet set to a friend's house to play croquet. And this is my grandparents' croquet set that I inherited. So.
Have you played croquet before?
I have. I played it as a kid at my grandparents' house, so it seems like a very old-timey thing, and I guess it is. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, though, if you can get a group of people to play it.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing you need to add is get some Zarts.
The lawn darts? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
They, my grandparents had a copy of them. I don't know where they went, but yeah, they looked very lethal.
Yeah.
Oh, they are so hard to get now.
My dad got a box of jarts at I think it was a Goodwill or a garage sale or something like that.
Okay,
when I was a kid. Go ahead.
Moxie called them, Zarts, and you just called them Jarts. What is going on? Please.
Lawn darts.
But then where's the J or the Z coming from?
So the J,
sorry,
I mispronounced it. The J comes from their short for javelin darts.
Okay, sure.
Let's just name them after 2 weapons. Yeah.
I mean, they straight up are a weapon.
Or are they darts made out of jeans?
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to mix darts and shorts. Dorts? I don't know. Just they're lawn darts. They're big spikes of metal with fins on the end, and the game is there are 2 goals. And either, just one for each team. You take turns tossing them back and forth, and the directions tell you the team that is not that is not currently throwing. It's fine to stand right behind the hoop as people are throwing the darts. Yeah.
It was a different time.
They're super
I was going to
heavy.
say the people who have the fewest number of holes in their body when they finish are the winners.
It's a real satisfying throw because of how hefty they are. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think, it's important if, we ever get attacked by zombies or whatever. That's an important life skill.
Well, I mean,
Truly.
use them. You just grab them again. Unless anybody think I grew up like in the 60s. They were banned when my dad got them as well.
Although recent events have established that we apparently both went to college in Appalachia.
Jesus. Yeah, I do not claim that. Not because I'm against it, but because I don't know. Seems kind of.
It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true. Not making claims around it. But you are taking the ancestral croquet set over to a friend's.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a weird thing to have in a Seattle apartment.
Quite. Yeah.
No, that sounds to me like a
once.
super Seattle thing to have.
Like croquet from rooftop to rooftop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I like lawn games, and I'm very upset that for the past 15 years and more, lawn games in the where I live have just been completely dominated by cornhole / bags. Yeah. Oh well. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoy your croquet. Moxie, how about you?
I haven't had a whole heck of a lot. I'm going with some friends this Thursday to see the new Deadpool movie.
Okay.
Which meant this weekend was me watching the previous 2 Deadpool movies for the first time.
What do you think?
So I really enjoyed it. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's been forever since I've seen a decent Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the first one's so dated because it has a sane TJ Miller in it.
Was that pre or post?
I don't know who that is.
He's the bartender friend, the guy with kind of the scratchy voice kind of guy. What's the character he plays? Weasel? Is that who that is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did he milkshake duck or something?
He was always kind of shitty, but then he went completely out of his mind. There were sex assault allegations revealed, I believe, and got eventually got called in for calling in bomb threats on people. Yeah, kind of a not great, not great as a person, I would say. So yeah, it is a little weird to.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. No, I like the Deadpool movies, if only because you get to see weird X-Men stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
I could take or leave Ryan Reynolds or even the character of Deadpool, but I don't know, to just have Colossus be a side character in 2 and have basically the X-Force show up. That's great. Domino's scene in that is great. I'm curious about this new one because the villain is Cassandra Nova, which is wild because I never thought that Cassandra Nova would be put on film. So, yeah. I was pretty surprised. I think the biggest thing for me is one of the big problems with Marvel movies is them never being able to resist just snarky humor. And the advantage of Deadpool is, you don't have inappropriate snarky humor if that's just all you do. Yeah, if that's the mode. Yeah. Although I did see a thing, somebody said, yeah, Deadpool 3 is, fun. Just, go in thinking of Loki season 1. And that's the problem with Marvel movies is suddenly there's a bunch of homework you have to do.
Right. That's part of the problem with the comics too.
Yeah. It's I'm fine. I'm probably good. We'll see. Maybe when it comes to DVD. But
yeah, I've heard that it has some pacing problems and some other stuff like that. But
yeah, not to poison the well. I don't mean to do that. for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody else will complain about a pacing problem, and I'll be like, it's fine. So,
Well,
whatever.
It's also fun to go and then be like, so what am I going to see at Dragon Con this year?
Yes.
Right.
I think poisoning the well is okay if the hero's name is Deadpool.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oh, man. And you know what? I really don't have anything this past week. Just kind of
That's lovely.
a blur of work.
That is lovely, actually. So, I mean, I'll take that over some of mine.
Yeah, no, I
don't want to switch with you, though. I don't want you to have to do that.
No, I'm not complaining at all. It's just like I've said it many times before, and I believe it from the bottom of my heart. Boring is a luxury, but like didn't go see a movie. Yeah,
you didn't see Twisters?
Oh yeah.
No, I did not go see Twisters.
I saw a movie too.
You saw Oddity.
I saw Kulki, and I also saw Oddity. I saw 2 movies in the last couple of weeks, actually. Probably because we were so exhausted, we just wanted to get away, and that was something that we knew was still open. So I saw Kulki 2898 AD, which is a really cool Tollywood film. It's the highest, most expensive Indian film ever made. And it is a sci-fi jag that is covering stuff from like the Mahabharata, but also throwing in like Star Wars and Battle Angel Alita and good lord, Blade Runner and a bunch of other kind of sci-fi beats, some feelings of like Cyberpunk 2077, some other things like that. Like stuff will feel really familiar to you if you are a person who consumes sci-fi media and then watch this. And there are some character names and things like that are just like, okay, yeah, this is definitely pulling from this other thing, but it's not. It's referential, but it's doing its own thing, and it's a really cool movie, and it's setting up like a series of movies. And I wrote a review for it on my network stuff, so it's on my coffee. But a really cool movie. If you can go look it up, like go look at the trailer for it and check it out. It's worth your time to go see, especially if you can see it in theaters, because it's very cool. And then also, yes, we did see Oddity as well. And Oddity, the main thing I have to say about that, because that was one that Dave wanted to go watch, is I kept on thinking about Ollie, listener Ollie, a friend of mine, Ollie, because he's in Ireland, and we were having a discussion on one of my podcast episodes on microbiomes about drywall and things that live in drywall. And then Ollie's like, see, we don't have to worry about that because we have stone walls. And then the Oddity movie is set in Ireland, and they have stone walls, and I couldn't get that out of my head. And I'm like, at least there's nothing weird living in their walls. No, it actually is a pretty good movie. There are some nitpicks I could make, but it has a very great atmosphere to it, and is a cool little movie. And it's more of the kind of horror movie that I would watch, more so than something that's more like gore focused or shock kind of stuff. And they do have like a couple more jump scares that aren't really additive than I feel don't really need to be there, and a few other little things like that. But overall, because you already know the jump scares don't work on me, so I'm just sitting there like, this is especially not additive for me. You can stop with this anytime. Yeah. But anyway, it is a good movie, and that is also one that if you can catch it in the theater, it would be good. But also, if you miss it and you watch it on stream, I don't think you're going to be, remiss for that. Now, Kulki, that is a very big movie, a massive movie that's doing a lot of stuff. There's even like a big fight sequence that really looks like it was pulled out of Lord of the Rings, except make it with lightsabers. So, it's like, that's one you have to see in the theater for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about video games.
Yeah, let's do that. And to do that, we're going to have to do the regular kind of show with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with
The Grind.
The Grind, where we talk about the games we've been playing over the past period of time or so. Jala, you've been away the longest, so I will defer to you to begin.
Okay. Okay, so I have a few, and I don't have a lot to say about a couple of them. So what I'm going to do is also talk about a couple of board games that I've played recently.
Okay.
So, the first thing I will say is LUNAR, Silver Star Story Complete. As you might imagine by the fact that the LUNAR episode is coming out the same day this episode of The Level drops, I finished it. And the one thing I will say about it, because I've already talked about it previously, and I have talked for 5 hours about it on my own show, the main thing that I want to leave here for listeners is that the last time I was on, I was complaining a lot because I reached kind of like the nadir of that game at the time that we were recording. But then it kind of pulled up near the end of the game for me. And so like I left on a better note. Still has more problems than I might, recommend to people. But, it's overall, it did leave me with a good feeling at the end when I finally got there. So that is.
I remember it getting more mechanically interesting after the class change, but the story being pretty mushy. Then again, this was 25 years ago when I played it. Yeah.
Well, for anybody who has played the remake, the PlayStation 1 version of it, who is interested in the original game, the way that Addie and I talked about this on the episodes that I did for my show is like we were talking about it defaulting to discussing the Sega CD version and then stopping to then say what happened in the remake that is different. And of course, during the non-spoiler section, we were talking about the mechanics of each one and taking turns going between the two games. So, we do have a whole compare contrast where we're talking about story beats and which ones we prefer and this, that, and the other while we were going. And mechanics wise, what the changes were and what were good and what were not as good. So
when did the remake come out for it?
96.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The original was 92 in Japan, so 93 in America, I think. So yeah, it was quite a long time ago. These games were released. So yeah. Anyway, the game I actually ended up kind of warmer on the remake than I have been in the past. Probably because I played both the original and the remake back to back, so I could more fairly compare them rather than comparing the remake to my memory of the first one. You know what I mean? So, it'll be interesting when later in the year we revisit LUNAR Eternal Blue. It will be Addie's first time playing it, and for me, it will be my first time playing the Sega CD and the remake back to back. So, I don't remember there being a lot of differences, but we'll see when I get there. So, moving right along, though, Baldur's Gate 3. I finally finished Act 1. It's only
now, did you finish Act 1?
I finished it. I finished it.
Okay, you finished
it.
It's
done.
Okay.
It's done. All of it's done. All of it's done.
I'm just gonna say, because when you sent me the video of you playing it, of you playing that on your porch, I was like, all right, so you're at the end of the underworld, but have you seen Rosie more?
Yeah. I know. And I'm glad that we had that whole exchange. We talked about that because I was like, oh, yeah, it's a good thing I talked to you about that before I progressed on with the story. So, but I finished all of the rest of that section as well. So I double checked all of my quest lines and ran through everything again to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So, or at least I didn't miss anything that I noticed on this playthrough. I'm sure there's more crap that I would find on a replay.
Did you get to see Blacketh?
Oh, yeah.
Did you piss her off enough that she wished you out of existence?
I did that once, and then I ended up... Yeah, I did, for sure. Because, at that point, I'm like, oh, okay. I saved it right before, and I'm like, let's do all the options. I gotta challenge fate and see what happens. So I had a whole lot of different things happen in that particular thing. So that would be an interesting discussion, but I don't want to spoil it for folks. So can't talk about it, but I can message you later about it and we'll talk about it. But so I saw all of those fun things and then methodically had a murder spree And then somebody's like, oh, you're doing the quote unquote murder unhoused person thing,
Right.
from D&D. And I'm like, no. You see, the thing is that these people, and like I went through an actual explanation of why my character would be doing this. But
I mean, the whole place aggroes. There's
yes, it does. For sure. And it's like, I mean, well, I'm not going to do the other option, so anyhow. So,
who are you rolling with in your party?
It varies. For that part, I had Lae'zel in my party because that's advantageous for that particular section, story wise. But normally, I have been presently rolling mostly with I have a paladin. And then I have Will, and then I will have Shadowheart or Astarion, depending upon if I needed a thief at that time, like right beforehand, or if I needed like the conversation buff from Shadowheart, and then Karlach. So that's who's in my party usually. I had been rolling with Gale before, but then once I finally figured out, because I hadn't had a warlock in my party like ever in any D&D game I ever played on tabletop-wise. So I had no idea anything about warlocks and how to use them. But I kind of forced myself to, because Gale kept on needing, items and stuff. And I was like, enough of this. Enough of this. I don't want this anymore. So, plus the shine that I had when I first picked him up kind of went away, and I'm like, oh, I don't like you actually. So then I
many
was like,
such
okay.
cases.
Yeah. So either way, I've been rolling with Karlach and Will, and then insert either Shadowheart or Astarion. Mostly because like Lae'zel, I had Lae'zel in my party, and she was like MVP for a while, but then after a certain point, it was kind of like, well, I broke up with Lae'zel, and then she doesn't like me anymore. So, and then she's always disapproving of everything that I do because I'm a paladin. So it's like, well, I just need to not have her in my party when I'm doing stuff.
Yeah,
So.
a non-respect Lae'zel and Karlach in the same party makes very little sense.
Yeah. And it's like I need one of them, and Karlach is more in line with what my character is doing. So that is why Karlach. But also Karlach is cool. But anyway, so
is Karlach the red lady?
Yes.
Yeah, and she's my girlfriend. So.
Yeah, I know the internet likes her a great deal.
Yes. So.
Oh gosh. Well, Act 2 is cool but strange. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, it'll be a while before I get there because I have to stop and do like assignment play stuff. So you know how that goes.
Many
so
such
I'm
cases.
glad so I'm glad I had like a period of time within which I could finally finish Act 1, because it's been like 2 years? So I don't know. When did this game come out? 1 year, 2 years? How many years has it been? I don't even know.
It reached 1.0 last August, so 1 year.
Okay, 1 year. Still a year, and I've only finished Act 1.
We've just been living a decade every couple of weeks since then. So
I know, it's like that's why I'm like I don't even know when it came out anymore.
Yeah, really, release schedules mean very little when we all age like presidents. So
right. Well, and then too, like I thought I had played Degradation like just a few months ago. Like it must have been in the spring, right, guys? And then I look it up, and I'm like, no, that was like last fall in like September. Oh man, okay. Welp. So anyway, the other video game that I have been playing, or that I did play, is When the Past Was Around. This is a 2020 adventure game about love, loss, letting go, and healing, developed by Mojiken, which is an Indonesian developer, and it's published by Toge Productions. So this one is a short 2-hour experience. It has very gorgeous art and music. And as you might imagine from it being an adventure game, this is a very breezy and relaxing kind of experience, which is the kind of thing I needed after all of the chaos. So, this is what I was playing. And in this game, you follow the story of Edda, a young woman who is down in the dumps until she meets the owl, who is a gifted musician that brings light and life to her life. And he ends up becoming sick and passes away. So you wander through Edda's memories, both happy and worrisome, as she's working through her grief and like, you know, her stages of happiness with him, and then when he starts getting sick and everything. And then she's working through this grief and eventually becomes ready to move on. And this dev has some other games out which seem to have the same kind of heartfelt sentiments and gorgeous art. So I will be looking into some of their other titles. They have a new release from last year called A Space for the Unbound. It has really high reviews. And also they have a couple of older titles that are free on Steam, and you can buy a deluxe version with soundtrack and extra artwork and stuff for like $2.99. So worth a look to take a look at that. But yeah, like even though the story of when the past was around does go through some sad moments and everything as well, it does still kind of end on like this more uplifting note. So, you know, it's not like a super tragedy game or anything like that. Like, yes, there are sad things that happen, but it's not like devastating to you as a player.
Yeah.
So
it is about grief, but it is not, you know. Yeah.
It's not just centering on the negative parts of that.
Right.
So, you know, because like there are some beautiful things in the stages of grief that you go through. So, you know, like just keeping in mind the positives as well in the middle of all of that while letting yourself feel your feelings, you know.
Yeah.
So
that the art style is really pleasant.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful game. It has very beautiful music, and you know, it's something that I would definitely recommend people check out and just take a look at the other titles that they have available, because again, some of those are free, and those other games that are free, I'm betting are pretty short experiences as well. So not a big time sink for you to go and check out.
Yeah. Has a demo too. So costs you nothing to try.
Yep, for sure. So, any questions about when the past was around?
No. Can I get a poster in this art style, because it's very warm, and I like that. I like that line work. Yeah,
it's beautiful. And then like when you see some of the stills and some of the animations and stuff in the game itself too, it's just like, you know, it's really worth your time to take a look at. But yeah, so other than that, I've also played a couple of board games. So, well, I say board games. They are board games, but they're old. I played ancient board games.
All right, so let's talk Monopoly.
No, Hnefatafl. So Hnefatafl is Viking, also known as Viking chess. So I've had this game. I've had this game for a long time. It's something that I wasn't able to pull out and play with people because I didn't have anybody to play with. And then Dave had no idea how to play it. And I recently was like, I want to play Tafel. And so I pulled it out and taught him how to play. And we've been playing a little bit here and there since.
Okay, so this is spelled ridiculously.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Hnefatafl.
Yes.
Hnefatafl.
Hnefatafl, yes.
It's spelled like an IKEA,
seems
product.
appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, it's Tafel for short, or you can just look for Viking chess and it'll come up. But, yeah, so in this game, you basically have two sides. You've got the defenders and then the raiders. And as you might imagine, the raiders are trying to come in. They're trying to capture the king. And the defenders have to get the king to safety. And they have to get to one of the four corner pieces on the board. And depending upon like what size Tafel board you have, because I actually have a couple of them, one is bigger than the other, so it has more pieces and it takes longer to go through. But then I have a smaller portable set that is, you know, a smaller board as well. So, you know, depending upon how much time you have, you can get a board that is of appropriate size for you. But you just basically take turns taking pieces and trying to get this king, who is basically an unarmed piece. Like, you can't capture anything with it. It's pretty much useless. You just need to get him to safety. You know, try to get that piece out if you are the defenders. And of course, if you're the raiders, you have to, you know, position it so that you can capture their king. And the king can only be captured by the raiders if it is surrounded on all four sides by the raiders. So it's tough
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it does require a lot of tactics and thought. But unlike chess, which has a bunch of different pieces that move in a bunch of different ways, all of the pieces move in one way. So it simplifies things. So it's a kind of simpler version of chess that is not that is also still strategic in style.
Yeah.
So
I like this as a reflection of like what kind of game would a people who engage in warfare navally it kind of create, as opposed to warfare in Europe where chess would have been made up and it was like line against line. And like the asymmetry built into that. I've seen boards for this, but I've not actually known what game is on it. It looks stressful.
it's a really fun game, actually. And another game that I want to get but I have not picked up yet is Nine Men's Morris, which is played on a board similar-ish to this. So I want to pick that up as well, but I have not gotten that thus far. But we will be picking up more of these old style board games. I do have another one, but so with Tafl, I have played it off and on for a number of years. It's just hard for me to find people to play with, as I mentioned. So it's good that now Dave knows how to play. So after we go to like Muay Thai, when we go to get some coffee afterwards, we can sit down and pull out Tafl and play a game over our coffee while we're just kind of relaxing after Muay Thai. So that is cool and fun to me. So the other board game that I played was the Royal Game of Ur. So it's named after Ur, or Ur, if you will, which is one of the oldest known civilizations from in the past. And this game is one of the few ancient board games that we actually have documentation of what the rules were.
And not just a supposition based on,
Well, because with Tafl, the way the rules were intuited were a guy who didn't know the language of the people playing the game was watching the people play the game and then wrote down some notes. And that's what we have, are the notes that were made. Now, of course, Tafl, from, once you watch it for long enough, you can pick up on what's going on. But if there were special rules or nuances to the game, we don't know what those might have been. Of course, in modern times, people have made a lot of different variations of how the game plays.
Yeah. No, my heart kind of broke there for a second, because it's like this game, those rules preserved by that one guy, when no two settlements played that game the same way, likely,
Right.
So there was probably just a rich variant of, for lack of a better word, house rules around this.
Absolutely. And yes.
Oh, fun fact. What we consider chess today is actually a variant.
There's been erratas and stuff, yeah.
In particular, the fact that the queen is so powerful was not a variant that has now become the standard.
Cool.
Yeah,
so the other board game was the Royal Game of Ur, which this is, so in ancient times, because Dave and I were just doing this deep dive on a bunch of ancient games for reasons. It's mostly because we watched this very cool Malayalam movie called Brahma Yugam, and it's a horror movie that is super freaking cool and so worth your time, but unfortunately only available on a streaming service, and you have to subscribe for whatever to watch it. But it is so worth your time. And Kole, I think you would actually really dig this movie if you watched it. But in either case, we watched this movie, and in the movie, the villain guy is playing a game of Pachisi with this occupant of his house that's staying there. And it ties into the story a lot, but also it got us wanting to look at a bunch of old games and things. So we picked this one up, the Royal Game of Ur. It is one of very many numbers of chase games that have different variations across the entire world. So in this kind of a game, you have the board, you have your set number of squares, you have a number of pieces on either side, and each person has to roll the dice, which in ancient times would often be sticks that you would have to roll, and the sticks would be marked or whatever, and then you would sort out the numbers accordingly. And then you move your piece the number of times and whatnot. There are some spaces where you can go again, roll again or something like that. But if the opponent's piece comes up on your piece and lands on the same spot, then your piece gets knocked back to the beginning again. And the whole point is you need to race your pieces around and also be tactful with your timing of when you place your pieces and stuff according to your rolls, so that you can get all of your pieces off the board and through the path before your opponent does. And there's a lot of different variations of this. We saw some from South America, and we saw some from India. We saw, this one from Ur. There's a bunch of there's some from Europe. And even from Egypt. There's board games that are similar to this across the globe. We just happen to pick this one up.
It sounds like a simpler version of backgammon, actually.
Yeah, it's something like that. But again, like a simplified version. And then, of course, the rules across different cultures are a little bit different, but a lot of different cultures had something kind of similar to this. So there's a few more of these old board games that we are looking at possibly picking up. And part of the reason we like these is because a lot of them, you can find them on like a piece of rolled up parchment, like printed on a piece of parchment with like little stones and stuff that you can just roll up and keep with you and take it with you, so you can go somewhere and be having coffee and not have to pull out a massive board, like in a big box or anything like that.
Yeah. Although there is something nice about like a carved like Mancala board or something like that.
Oh yeah. There is a particular Tafel board that I will have to post in the backstage so you can see it. But it is so baller. I'm eyeing it. I really, really want this one particular board, but hand carved masterpiece.
Yeah.
Anyway, any questions about Tafel or the royal game of Ur?
I do want to shout out or shake my finger at the Swedes or the Nordic culture for having two games that are called Viking chess. Because there's another one called Kube that's like cornhole kind of.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up earlier when I was talking about lawn games.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Well, that's not their fault, because they had two different names for it. That's everyone else's fault for calling it the same thing.
I think that Tafel has a little bit more claim to it, being that it is played on a table with a board and squares, and it is not hunks of wood being thrown at each other on grass. I do like Cube. I got myself a Cube set, but have not had occasion to play with anybody, because I do not know that I can successfully explain the rules to my parents or family, So, nice, good. So, when you made a joke about old board games and I said Monopoly, you went ha ha ha, and then you went back several centuries, tens of centuries.
Yeah. Then I said, "Let me tell you about old."
Nice. Was that all you had?
Yes, that is all I had.
Cool. Let's see who has something new.
So I have something new, actually.
Okay, go ahead, Moxie.
So yesterday I tried a little bit of Stellaris with a friend for the first time.
Ooh.
So yeah. I don't know. I don't think anyone on this show has played this before, correct?
Ben has.
I've played a little bit. A tiny bit.
Okay. So, just to give people a summary, it's, super complex 4X strategy game, with a sci-fi theme. Kind of its big thing is there's just a massive number of crazy different alien races you can play as. So, you can play as robots that don't need food, or you can play as a parasitic species.
And you can even roll up your own race too. This is like the Crusader Kings or Hearts of Iron version of a Master of Orion. like back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm was just playing as the humans, and I'm playing with just co-op with a friend, so kind of us versus the other aliens. Honestly, I haven't gone real far yet. We didn't finish the game, so just kind of got through some of the beginning of the match or whatever, because this game is incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it's good.
So honestly, I think it's cool. I like it. It's hard for me to say a whole lot of it just because I'm not sure how much of it I remember or I understood, honestly.
Go ahead.
That's kind of like the linchpin of all their games. It's like you respect it, but you're like, I don't know how to play this, and I need to like study it before I can actually play it.
Eventually, like with Crusader Kings 3, Paradox started being pretty aggressive about tutorialization, but I believe that unless they've patched it in, like Stellaris is pre that. Right.
Well, it's also a thing where like multiplayer is probably a little bit easier because although like we did pause it when like things happened and stuff, like the first time I got attacked, we paused it so that the person I was playing with could explain the combat system and stuff. It's still a thing where like I can't, like if I was playing by myself, when an option popped up, I'd like go and read and look at all the different decisions I could make and that sort of thing. Whereas as I'm playing, I basically have everything set to just like auto mode.
Yeah. It's hard to even know like at what level you're like the decisions you need to make are happening. Like it just, I don't know. I just anytime I've run an attempt at these, because I like thinking of myself as somebody who enjoys a good strategy game, especially turn-based, right? And the reality defies that image of myself. Just because it ends up, I don't know what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm in the same camp.
Yeah.
The thing I've read some people suggest is you can generate and set up a game with no other alien species.
Oh, and you can just expand.
Yeah. I think you would still potentially have like some of the like default hostile aliens, but those are, generally speaking, like they don't actually try to expand their borders or do anything. It's just kind of they're there if you poke at them.
It's like the barbarians in Civ.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's
so. Yeah, so I might give that a try.
I think that's part of what confuses me about the strategy too. Is it's like at a certain point you are punished for trying to take over like neighboring civilizations, and it becomes more of like a diplomacy game. Yeah. But for me, it's very confusing. Like when you employ what strategy.
Yeah. From what I've seen, it seems like it's one way or the other. But yeah, I know those games are real big into like you have to have your cause for going to war. Otherwise, the Space United Nations will get after you. And yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like that.
I think I'll throw out I talked about this game like maybe half a year ago or so, but I'll throw out a recommendation for Nexus 5X as being like a bite-sized Stellaris that's at least like approachable and like you feel like you can understand it at least. If just in case you run up against a wall with this one.
What's the 5X stand for on that? Like Express or something like that?
I am not sure.
And when you say 6 months ago, do you mean April?
I think it was March, but yeah. Might be rounding up.
Okay, it was April 5th. April 5th that it happened. Yeah. Nice. So Stellaris. Were you playing it with any expansions? Like there was a big sale on that during the Steam summer sale.
Right. I am not. If I get back in, I'm probably going to probably going to selectively pick the expansions I want. Mm-hmm. I'm also was looking at the at some of the mod support.
Yeah.
In particular, there is a mod for adding the Femboy Empire as a playable faction.
Because that's a Paradox game.
So I might go with that.
Nice.
Other than that, the big thing this week was past weekend was Tennocon.
Yeah, there were some announcements on that.
Yeah. So they've announced the two biggest announcements are one, they showed more of they are inexplicably making a game called Soulframe, which appears to be like Souls-like Warframe.
I mean, like literally medieval fantasy,
yes,
kind of thing. Yeah, I was curious about that.
Yeah, it's important to realize this is distinct from the explicitly Souls-like mode that exists inside of Warframe.
I mean, it is also a concrete example of them trying out a play style in, the iterative Warframe development stuff, and then just saying like, yeah, no, this feels good, let's break it out.
Yeah, although sometimes I suspect it actually goes the other way, that they keep thinking about making new games and then being like, or we could just put this in Warframe.
Yeah, this could just be another mode. Yeah.
But so that's a thing. The other thing that was announced is Warframe storytelling is very much like comic book storytelling in that, any given story, no matter what happens, doesn't necessarily have to be over. That sort of thing. That being said, the New War and those sorts of things, expansions that were, I think, last year, that sort of finished up one of the big main story arcs they've been doing for years. And so they've sort of been laying the groundwork for what's going to come next. And it appears that is going to be what they're calling Warframe 1999.
Okay.
So from what it appears, kind of the plot line is that you're going to do some time travel back to year 1999, in particular. New Year's Eve of 1999. And in this timeline, there's some sort of like techno plague that is creating these weird kind of hybrid computer monsters. And I guess the implication is that, this is like what would have actually happened with the Y2K virus if, Warframe hadn't, secretly gone and saved things in the real timeline or something like that.
Okay. Does this actually like make it look or feel like an old MMO, like 1999 style? Like, is it Anarchy Online?
No, it is much more going back to 90s aesthetics of like everyone is super, super edgy, all clothing must be made out of leather, and all characters need at least 5 hip pouches.
Gotcha. Is this out or has this just been announced?
This has been announced.
Okay.
In the most recent mission they released, introduces kind of the, there's going to, like I said, be a time travel element to it. And it introduces the the most recent mission introduces kind of the future or slash your standard timeline end of the time travel, and you briefly go back to 1999 and play as one of these characters, but then this new expansion is going to be focused on that. The thing that's interesting is each of the characters appear to be what's called a proto-frame. So they're appear to more or less be human / cyborgs, but have all of the abilities of one of the Warframes.
Okay.
So it's kind of unclear where if that's like progenitor, that sort of thing. The other thing with that is that this basic premise and the overall look of the game is very similar to Dark Sector, which was the game that was kind of the was sort of the prototype of Warframe, and it's always been somewhat ambiguous how much story crossover there may or may not be. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So, like, is the play going to be different in this, or is it more, Devil May Cry character action stuff?
Sure. So, I've only watched their basic teaser trailer. I didn't watch. They did like 30 minutes of gameplay because I didn't want to be spoiled on it. But the teaser trailer, suggests one, you're going to get some sort of like atomic punk motorcycle. And it appears to be going a little bit more for I don't know what you'd call it, kind of a more traditional action shooter type of feel. However, it's hard to know with from a trailer how much that's the case.
Right.
The other very strange thing they've announced is Warframe has a version of the Nemesis system from like Shadow of War.
Oh, yeah. Never mind.
and they've added so far in previous expansions they've added two different kind of factions of Nemesis that can show up. They're adding a new one with this expansion, and it is apparently the evil like robot disease has created a like evil violent version of a 90s boy band.
Okay.
And that is going to be who you're fighting. That makes no freaking sense to me, but what else does in Warframe?
I mean, it all just kind of seems to be like pretextual excuses to do what they want to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. I'm excited for them, to see them doing their new thing. I also think it wouldn't be awful to use this as an excuse to kind of change up some of the gameplay and some of the storyline and where they're going with that. So I'm pretty excited.
Cool.
And then other than that, it's just basically for a limited time, you can there's every other week there's a vendor that comes to the game that sells like end game items, a random selection.
Like the Destiny guy, whatever.
Exactly. And during Tennocon, he sells every single item he's ever sold.
Okay, so
yeah, so doing a lot of grinding up to get currency so that I can buy all the things. In particular, I've got my eye on some dual diamond coated nail guns.
Okay. Straight out of Quake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's all I got.
Cool. Yeah, Stellaris and Warframe. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I just got mainly one that I want to talk about, which is I picked up Beat Saber for VR.
Oh, shit. Yeah, there we go.
So not a new game per se, but new to me. I guess my review of it is my arms and chest are sore because I played it a whole bunch. So that's a positive, I suppose.
It's a real one more song kind of game, yeah.
Yeah. I guess what prompted this is I heard somebody at work describe their VR system as their Beat Saber machine. So I was like, oh, it's probably pretty good. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's pretty analogous to like DDR, except it's maybe not as physical, or it's still physical, but like not as kinetic. I guess you can kind of get away with limited movement if you want. So it's somewhere between like a Wii controller and DDR. Yeah, it's awesome though. When you get into it, it's a lot of fun. You can kind of be as expressive as you want with as far as like moving your hands around, and then getting up to some of the higher difficulties and stuff. It kind of rewards like being in the groove of things and like moving around, because a lot of the patterns will be kind of intuitive with how you want to keep moving your hands. So I think the only thing I want to do is start trying like a training mode. I think they have one in there, but I haven't explored it. Because kind of like one of the things is it's either a song I can do and I can probably beat it on my first try, or it is very, very hard and I will immediately fail. And so I would like to kind of have a ramp up, and it gets better as the expansions go on. Whereas like I think there's like 1 through 7, and then there's some bonus songs are the original like free packs that you have. The early packs, it's like, you can probably do, I think it's like easy, normal, hard, expert plus are the difficulties, where it's like you could probably do hard or expert on the beginning ones, but then like it's a very steep ramp up where I think maybe when you go to expert or expert plus, it's like very impossible. Whereas on the later packs that are out, like normal to hard is kind of where you're going to be at, and then it seems to do a more like coherent job of increasing the difficulty and not like taking like a steep increase. But yeah, man. Oh, good.
Are you playing it song like just going around and picking songs, or are you doing the campaign's the wrong word, but the
it's called a campaign, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, does it have a plot line? Because that would be amazing.
No, absolutely not. No, it's pretty bare bones. It's basically just introducing you to the different like mods you can do on songs, and so it'll pick a song and it'll pick some sort of modification that you might need to hit, or it could just be the regular song. But modifications are things like it could be they have like a memory game where they'll show you the arrow like when it's down the track, but then remove it, and you have to remember which way to hit it. Yeah. They have movements where they track your arm movements of like the distance of it, and either doing minimal, like where you have to stay below it, so try and move your arms as little as possible, or a maximal where it's like you have to move your arms a lot and be very expressive. And so whenever there's downtime, you're just like, what is it, like soccer exercising, where you're like windmill spinning your arms or whatever to try and up the distance.
You're a wacky waving arm inflatable tube man.
Yeah. Those are kind of wacky, and like I'm not wholly into them. I kind of like playing the traditional songs more or less. So I played that for a bit, but then kind of exited out, and then just kind of going through pack by pack and finding my more favorite songs and playing those again. A lot of them are like pretty replayable too, where it's like the songs that are good. I mean, I know I'll eventually probably get tired of them, but they're pretty replayable right now. Yeah, it was $100 bills. Shout out to that. I don't know, Cathedral or something like that is a good one. But and they have like the Crab Champion song on one of the bonus tracks, so that was a nice surprise. And the thing I haven't really explored too much is like some of their DLC packs that you can buy. I'm usually not big into that, but I know they have like a few like Daft Punk songs and stuff like that, so I might take the plunge on that.
Daft Punk does sound tailor-made for this.
No.
Yeah. But it's a really fun experience. Like it's a really good application for VR, and it's it seems it's kind of once again like reinforcing that like the grammar for VR games is like wholly different from the grammar of like regular console games, and so it's like stuff that's really fun in VR wouldn't really make sense in console and vice versa. And so it's been around forever, so people, a lot of people already know this, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun to try that since I hadn't played it in depth before. So
the thing that surprises me every time I go back to it is that it's not just like, okay, I need to slash these blocks with the right with the right colored saber in the correct direction, but like precision matters a lot in it. Like it keeps track of like how far off you are on the angle that it's asking for. So like, if you are trying to beat scores or trying to hit like a star amount, very quickly it stops being like, hey, do you know the song, and like roughly what order these blocks are gonna come in, and becomes more about like, do you have the control to hit as close to the 90 or 45 degree angle on this while under pressure, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of room for like perfection, and it, because I think it measures from the middle as well. I don't care about that. I don't want to, like, for me it's just more like, can I hit the blocks, and like even if it's like a little bit off, because you can kind of reach forward, for lack of a better description, to like slice ahead or like kind of be off the beat a little bit. But I don't care too much about that. For me it's like kind of getting in the groove of it and like being able to do that. So I don't think I'll probably go to like the hardest difficulty, just because I don't see how that's not like stressful. Whereas I don't know, who knows. But
I'm the maniac who liked Expert Rock Band drums so much I bought a drum kit. And
fair.
So don't take my preferences as pressure for playing the game right or wrong. That's not my intention.
No, but know that we will judge you.
It's good that they have it in there for people who want that sort of thing. It's like it's not, if you're not into it, you can ignore it easily enough, and it's not a big deal. So it's good for having differentiated play. So Kole, have you got any of the DLCs of this or checked into that at all?
No, I've looked at them. It's just it's not the kind of electronic music that I like to listen to. I prefer stuff that's a little bit more ambient, a little bit more trancey than what's there. And for me, I really have to I have to like the music in a rhythm game by and large. So like I can see like all right, Daft Punk, that would be cool, but also like the tracks that I enjoy listening to on their own of Daft Punk are pretty low. I mean, I respect it. It's good. It's just not what I listen to for fun. Or like Lady Gaga, The Weeknd, any of the other pop ones. So I've not dug into the DLC on that. VR is definitely like is the place for rhythm games right now, though. If you're not going into the wild world of custom DLC and weird adapters, or buying guitar controllers that can't that are never on sale or never available to buy. I mean,
bespoke hardware.
If you're looking for one to go to after that, I believe PS5 has Pistol Whip, which for all the world, like, it seems like it's going to be a shooting game, but it very much is like a rhythm and dance game, but with the pleasure of doing a light gun shooter kind of alongside it. You get it's a little bit more like, if you're looking at like a exercise as well, it's more of like a core kind of thing too, because there's much more of like the dodging in different directions at basically abruptly swiveling at the waist at a moment's notice.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, Beat Saber's great. Like, it is when people ask, what should I get for VR? Like, it's like that and Super Hot VR are like just complete. You got to go for those. It's
easy recommends.
It's really, really hard to go wrong with those.
Yeah. Word.
Nice. What else?
That's all I got. I have a little bit of other stuff, but it's not enough to talk about it. So that's all I got for this week.
Cool. I finished up Still Wakes the Deep. This is the horror game that I talked about last week, where you are trapped on an oil rig that drilled too deep and pulled up an otherworldly entity. Started making people mutate and stuff like that, in addition to just the general management safety malfeasance that causes this thing to, the rig to fall apart under your feet even before this stuff shows up. I finished it up. It's good. It's fun. I gave it a little bit of a hassle last week for being the first Chinese Room game by the Chinese Room, the studio, to have mechanics insofar as there is stealth and you're hiding and you're distracting the monsters by throwing. By throwing stuff. That remains the case throughout the entire thing. I did run into very frustrating swimming segments where the oxygen timing.
I was going to say, it didn't seem like you actually enjoyed the mechanics that
much. When I was just sneaking around, it was fine because that's the first person horror games circa 2010 through present. So that was fine. It was the swimming that gave me fits because the visibility was so limited and it was really easy to get lost and then drown, which is stressful if you think about it. Like, if I was in this situation, I would be totally fucked. Like, this would be terrible to try to do. But in a video game, it quickly wore out its welcome for me.
The real question is, did you have the Sonic drowning music?
No, I should have downloaded that mod. Were you going to ask?
Was there current in the game? I couldn't tell. It had a weird thing where you had to grab onto something and pull yourself forward, but just watch it. It wasn't clear why you couldn't just swim.
So the grabbing onto stuff and launching yourself, that was sometimes against current, and other times it was because the distance that you had to cover was too great to not get the speed boost from launching off of stuff.
Oh, okay.
There was current in some places, there would be just rushes of current, taking you down like a hallway or a tunnel or a pipe, right? Mm-hmm. Or you would be swimming against it. So it was there. That wasn't simulated or modeled in any kind of way. It was either current is present or it's not.
Sure.
These sound like mechanics you need to leave to Hideo Kojima and not go for them yourself.
Yeah, Kojima kind of perfected that in 2001. When I say perfected, it was also kind of annoying in MGS too. But at least then it was novel. So and ultimately my final analysis was it's a really pretty game. The monster design is amazing in it. Mm-hmm. Just the because it's not just that some people turn into monsters. That's only particular people where that ends up happening. For a lot of the crew members who get hit, who start turning, it's hard to say, they spread out. You'll walk into a room and you'll see it's a sci-fi horror cliche, the walls are covered in meat moss, right? Mm-hmm. There's just something organic growing on the walls. Think of Dead Space or something like that. Here, though, it's these nodes of flesh and, glowing nodules and stuff collected by this nerve tissue. And you'll see that looks like lungs. That looks like rib. And then you'll look a little bit longer and then you'll see there's the face and here's an arm reaching for the door. It's pretty disturbing just the way that people maintain their humanity, even as they kind of just turn into tumors spread across the rooms where they got caught, Yeah,
it sounds gnarly.
Yeah, it's gnarly as hell. It rules. I just wish it was attached to a deeper game. Go ahead.
But you don't want to go too
I was just going to ask, what did you think of the ending?
Oh, the ending was fine. Yeah, no, the ending was good. It's there's kind of a sappy story to it. The guy's trying to get back home to his wife, who he left on bad terms. And you can guess based on that premise how things turn out. But the ending and all of the kind of final act that you ended up getting was sold by the very good voice acting Very emotionally and engagingly performed. So that carried it, at least as much as like the visuals, right? When I say that I wish that it was a little bit deeper, like a lot of it just kind of ended up feeling a little bit like, instead of being a walking sim, it was just a lot of like watching climbing animations as you were getting around a very realistically modeled oil rig.
So you wish the deep had awoken a little bit more.
A little bit, yeah. Or I wish that there was a little bit more variety from section to section. As it is, like, think about Amnesia, the Dark Descent, where you do a little bit of the kind of standard, and it wasn't standard at the time, but if you go and play it now, you do some of the like, okay, I'm running and hiding and stealthing around this monster, but then you get to the sections where it's in the water. And then suddenly you've got the invisible monster that is kind of stomping around in the water, and you're trying to, play the floor as lava while throwing hunks of meat in order to distract it. So to distract the monster so you can kind of cover some distance, right? Like that, even something just on the order of that, like a different kind of stealth kind of thing would kind of added a lot. It felt like this is a studio that is very focused on the presentational aspect of things, kind of dipping their hand in mechanics just enough to piss me off, kind of. So, that makes this an admirable product in terms of like, yeah, where they felt like expending a lot of effort, the effort really shines through. But we're living in a post-Amnesia the Bunker world, and I have had both an incredibly scary and presentationally rich game that had incredibly satisfying mechanics, and it's hard to go back to something that just does the one, and not only that, just does the one that I care about a little bit less.
It sounds like this game was made specifically for you, but not to make you happy.
No, this isn't a personal hell. I'm not trapped in Silent Hill when I'm sitting down to play it.
No, that's a different series.
Yes, that is a different series. It would be weird. They don't have the license for that. Konami would sue. It was made. No, I would say it's more accurate. That's funny to say. More accurately, it is made for somebody who's not me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I only popped in for like the barest of moments, so I had no idea what was going on or what game the game was even about.
Did you get to see monsters?
I don't know. The problem is that like at the times that you were streaming, I was trying to cook and eat and whatever. So I was catching glimpses, but it's mostly like just listening. So
listening to very, very Scottish people.
Yeah.
I think my favorite just dumb thing of it was the Scottish dialogue.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the silliest one for me is apparently kid in Scotland is ween or whatever.
Yeah, we won. We won.
Oh, okay, that's where it comes from. Okay.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny. I'm used to in the furry community, yeen is short for hyena. So it just sounds like he's talking about getting back to his adorable hyenas.
I just when I hear Ween, I think of that band that I don't care for very much.
Oh, well.
Yeah. No offense to Ween fans, just not it's not for me.
I do have to say the for some reason I don't know why, but the whole having someone I care about that needs insulin in a disaster is like something that for some reason really like bothers me. So like that element of it I found really, really creepy.
Oh, I mean, it's very affecting, right? I mean, it's established early on that your best friend on the rig has diabetes. And that is just a very realistic and terrifying thing to have happen, above and beyond the fact that there are monsters here, monsters present.
If you added monsters to my hurricane experience, it would be similar because my dad needed oxygen.
Jeez, yeah. in that sense, like that is a good decision. I like that was a really cool way for them to go, kind of, because that's gets into spoiler stuff. But having that be one of your primary goals for a good portion of the game, having that bring the urgency as opposed to the entire place falling down around you, which it still is. But like that, hits. That is a very relatable fear. So kudos on them. They're good decisions.
Compared to Dead Space, even though this is straight up just it exists because they said it exists, compared to Dead Space, just the fact that like other people on the rig are actually doing stuff, instead of literally everything being like you having to fix things, really helps kind of the flow of the storyline and stuff.
And that's a cool thing about the monsters too, because like they're not just mindless. The people who are not just like fused to the walls of the ship and spread across the the bulkheads like peanut butter across a playing card, is that they're still retain their humanity to a certain degree, and they kind of like their worst personality stuff gets like amplified. Right. So like they're still going around and like attempting to kind of do their job. And if they disliked you, in person, that aggression is, really, really ramped up. Right. So,
though I was also meaning just like, in particular, the two other like survivors that are kind of sending you off on things.
Yeah.
Like there are instances where they're also off fixing things, as opposed to like the Dead Space where it's like they're just sitting in the control thing sending you doing stuff.
And get to the tram. When you get to the tram, it's like, I've got bad news about the elevator. Get to the elevator, exactly. I've got bad news about the generator.
Yeah. Also, Kole, peanut butter on a playing card?
It's a Simpsons reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a perfect alibi for you, Kole, because I cannot check you on all those things.
Right.
No, it's Nelson. It's Nelson Muntz, the bully character. Bart and Lisa are just Homer packs their lunch one day. And oh gosh, it wasn't Nelson. Sorry, Homer packed their lunch for school because Marge was in jail or something, and Bart got sent, like a couple of things, and then peanut butter smeared across a playing card as a school lunch. It's real funny. So, that is me explaining a joke from The Simpsons, I believe from an episode from 1995.
Yay!
Yeah. So yeah, that still wakes the deep. It's good. I don't know.
It's good, but not for you.
Yeah.
It does have, I think, my favorite, just where they call it badly summarize a game or whatever.
Oh yeah.
The deep goes woke and decides to attack the oil industry.
Okay, there we go. Oh man, that's the only game I've completed. Oh wait, no, I've got something. There's something new. Oh shit,
Yay.
I forgot about this. NES World Championship. There's not much to say about this. To be fair, I mentioned it as an end boss a couple months back when Nintendo announced it. This is a game they put out that is like a little speed running challenge for a surprising number of NES games. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that, it takes classic NES games and breaks up their first few levels into little timed challenges. So it's like, I'll use Mario 1 for the examples because I think that is the most relatable. It's like, okay, collect 30 coins as quickly as you can. And then you have to do that, and it will rate you on how fast you do that. And kind of the main way that I'm playing it, you're playing on kind of the left side of the screen, and on the right side of the screen, it's showing kind of a ghost replay of your previous best. And then
Oh, cool.
what you're ultimately doing is learning how to shave fractions of seconds off by just understanding the way like the in-game physics and mechanics work. So like, all right, I'm losing seconds on trying to deal with these Goombas as I try and hit these 2 coin blocks down here. How can I get around that? Well, it turns out I do not need to jump like multiple times. I can, hit the block here as I bounce off of one of the Goombas and then just like don't press anything and I will drop onto the next one immediately just as it comes down. There you go. I'm no longer like hunting and pecking to hit both of these Goombas before I do it. I like combine those actions. And through this iterative process, you are kind of figuring out how to execute that. And so I've never attempted a speed run for anything. So it's not like a skill set that I have, but like by having these little almost drills that it runs you through, and gives you ratings, and then you have immediate feedback about like where you succeeded and where where things might have gotten flabby in previous runs. You're kind of like internalizing the game and trying to think about just like moment to moment strategy for like adapting to your immediate goal in ways that I have not engaged with these games previously.
Right. The closest experience to that I have is I think it was Sonic 3 where they had a split screen, but you had like timed races you could do that were outside of the main game.
Yeah.
And I used to play those a lot with people, and then like you get after so many repeated times, and then if you wanted to do those time challenges by yourself, like of course you're trying to run it for speed to get the best numbers. So that was about the closest I ever got to a speed run myself.
Yeah. It's neat, if not a little bit slight. Just in terms of like, you'll be playing, the Mario 1, and then like the single player content that you're playing on this, will go up through like, all right, get to the warp pipe or something like that. Or, like the later, like higher level challenges are, okay, run through like, I don't know, 2-2. Yeah, like just, okay, here's the cheap bridge one, level. So like, it's not going through an entire game and kind of teaching you the, like the thing. It's a little bit like, here's a crash course on just kind of the opening of these, so you get to understand the mechanics of this. There is an online mode where I understand they're going to be pulling from kind of deeper into the games and being a little bit more creative with the challenges, like the single player offering is kind of not the point. It's more of a way to get you on board. I will mess with that, but I am not leaderboard focused. So,
Right.
So
go ahead.
So do any of them incorporate any of the like speedrunning tricks? Any of the weird like, oh, you have to jump and then hit this box to, shift the camera and stuff like that?
Nothing that I have played so far takes advantage of glitch stuff. That said, the emulation on this is actually really faithful to the point where slowdown that would have been present in the original game is there, whereas a lot of emulators try to smooth that stuff over. So that might be something that factors in. The other sign for that is you can choose whether or not you want to play the NES or Famicom versions of the game, which have small technical differences, because like some of these were, Famicom Disk System games, things like Metroid, right? And kind of like have like a different underlying basis or architecture, in addition to like different music and slightly different graphics. So I imagine some of that stuff will get there. And if you know those tricks, you might be able to take advantage of them. It does not expect you to know that. And as far as I have seen, it does not teach you to do that. Yeah.
Still, it's cool that it has the after image of your last or your best run and all of that.
Yeah. I went into this expecting something a little bit closer to an NES remix, and nothing has scratched that itch for me so far. So that is a little bit of a bummer. However, I cannot hold it against this that it is not the game that I want it to be. I can, however, register. I can call my representatives and say we need another NES remix real badly, or an SNES remix. You can do it, Nintendo. I know you can.
I mean, I thought the rule on Nintendo is if there's anything fans like, Nintendo is against it.
Yes. And until like mysteriously they put out something that is for just a very small number of like super fans. Yeah.
Yes.
That is it. All I've been doing in addition to that is playing a ton of XCOM 2, which is a revelation. It's an incredibly good game. But I don't think anybody here has played that since Dennis is gone.
I was going to say Dennis is not here to be excited about this.
Right. And we've had time for this segment, I believe. So yeah, but yeah, I've put like 30 hours into that over the past like 7 days, which is pretty stringent as far as assignment play time goes. So yeah, that's me. Still Wakes the Deep in NES World Championship.
Woo!
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Dennis is the person who posted the question, asking what game took what you thought you knew about its genre and flipped it upside down. How did it impact the way that you view other games in the genre? And I will get us started here with David, who says, Gears of War 1 did that for me with shooters. I had only played Halo and Quake up until Gears came out, and was used to running and jumping around while shooting at things. In Gears of War, however, I quickly found out that sprinting into the enemy was a very bad idea. I had never played a game with a cover system like Gears had, and I slowly learned to start taking my time and use cover often. Funnily enough, by the end of that game's life cycle, I had gotten so good at it, so good that I was just sprinting up to people and taking them out with that Nasher shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
And then they post a sticker of a cat wearing some kind of brooch.
Yes,
So,
and a smirk and a sparkle in the eye.
they do have a sparkle. Yes.
It's a very smug-looking cat.
I was going to say, real satisfied with himself cat. Gears of
By
War.
which we mean a cat.
Yes. Gears of War wasn't the first game with a cover system, maybe Space Invaders, but like for a 3D shooter, like the only one before that really did that was a game called Kill Space. Distinct from Killzone. Or Kill Switch, rather. Kill Switch, there we go. I got Killzone and Dead Space mixed up. I forgot about Kill Switch. So yeah, Gears of War was definitely a different pace for that kind of stuff. Let's see. Moxie, what's Callum say?
Callum says, it's more case of it not fitting into one genre well. Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn. I went into it expecting something Streets of Rage-like, and it ended up with a very unique RPG beat-em-up with branching stories and great replayability.
That was one that I never could find a copy of back when, I was buying physical games on my Sega Saturn. And I never have gotten, retro gamed it or anything.
We were gonna do a WAF or something like that. Maybe we were just gonna do like a light abject suffering on it. When I say we, I mean me and Gary. The first year that I went out to Portland, and was staying in his apartment, that was on Virtual Console. Weirdly, for the Xbox Live Arcade or whatever, and we played through that and then ended up not recording about it. Weirdly, what is that? That has music by the Yellow Magic Orchestra. I think, is that Uematsu's band? No, different. Mm-mm. That's a different thing. Sorry. Anyway, that is my factoid on Guardian Heroes. Jala, what does Morgan say?
Morgan says, Dark Souls. I was and still am very into RPGs and started playing Dark Souls expecting your standard generic RPG. From the interconnected level design, the way the story had to be discovered, and the encouraged community interaction without being a full-on MMO, it made me see RPGs in a whole new light. I don't feel like it's ruined other games for me, but it did set a very high new standard.
Somebody had to say it.
Nobody said they couldn't this time.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true. Yeah. I'll never live that down. I'll never live down setting conditions for one response when I had to fill in. I was a hero for writing that question. No, I'm just kidding. Ben, what does Peter say?
Peter says, after sitting and thinking about it, I think my answer has to be the innovation that went into Crash Team Racing. In particular, I'm referring to how you navigated through the campaign, quote unquote. So many racing games of this kind were just select a track from a list. If you did well, you kept going. CTR had an actual mini world that you would drive around in and give you an idea as to how the character might handle on the controls. Makes me almost wish I was still younger so I could relive those days.
Never played Crash Team Racing. I just wasn't a Crash kid.
Me either.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot to add on that, Peter. Sorry.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is when we probably need Dennis here.
Right?
Yeah, Dennis is the PlayStation kid. Yeah. Anyway, Jeremy says, Inscription made me question everything I knew about card games. Yeah. Games by that guy will do that.
Inscription made me question everything I knew about Inscription.
Oh my gosh. And nothing matches chapter 1 as far as engagement or whatever, but even like the second chapter, with what that does, that is a throwback to a game I did not expect them to throw back to. Yeah, Inscription's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see, Moxie, what does Case say?
Case says, I'm showing my age here, but my first exposure to the cutscene in Ninja Gaiden for the NES changed how I looked at game narratives by, well, changing how the narrative is presented in a game. Not only having cutscenes, but ones that change your character's overall motivation and goals over the course of the story. It also paved the way to Vice, Project Doom, introducing a late-game twist on the player's identity, well before BioShock did.
You know what? I'm ashamed to say it. I've never played Vice Project Doom. I never heard of this before.
I didn't.
Me either.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Huh. Ninja Gaiden, specifically Ninja Gaiden 2, was my first introduction to the video game boss that you had to play Toro with. You know?
Jump out of the way?
Yeah, to run them into a wall in order to make them vulnerable to damage. That was the first game that I ran into. Like, when I realized what that boss fight was asking me to do, it was like, oh my god, I have to do something before I attack a thing.
Yeah.
It literally was a revelation, and then I immediately got sick of that gimmick, and they've never stopped doing it.
You learned two things with that game.
Yeah. Jala, what does Ollie say?
Ollie says, Gran Turismo. I had played a good few racing games that always had basically the same progression. Pick car, do well, unlock better car, use better car to win harder races, unlock even better car. Then Gran Turismo comes along and suddenly I own the car like it's mine in my virtual garage. I can modify it. I can change the oil, livery, etc. For winning races, I sometimes get cars, but most likely credits I can take to a car dealer and buy new parts and or new cars. It basically blew my mind as a teenager and gave me a sense of ownership over the little digital models and what was done to them.
Yeah, I mean, prior to Gran Turismo, if you wanted that, like, you would have to sit down to a really crunchy, like, racing simulator, and, you know, like on a DOS PC. Yeah. I always wanted to be kind of good at, like, Gran Turismo games. Again, kind of like Paradox strategy games. Like, oh, like this seems fun. This seems like a good thing to be good at. And then just the skill floor is too high. Oh man. Ben, what does Mr. Fredrickson say? Jala pasted this one in here.
Mr. Fredrickson says, Halo turned FPS games into exploration and puzzle games for me. Shining Force 3 turned games into a full immersion experience. A plot and characters with growth and stat growth mixed with humor and some excellent graphics. During their time, raised the bar on storytelling in video games.
Yeah. Halo, I mean, huge levels, right? Yeah. Before we get to the Reddit ones, we had a couple that came in on Slack, and I'm just going to read those because they're kind of short.
Sure.
Juan, this is a joke name, so I got to say it. Juan Wick says, going in blind, Subnautica was the scariest game I'd ever played, despite not actually being a horror game. As the person who splits hairs on whether something is called horror or not, yeah, that's a horror game, dog.
Man, I really wish they would make more games like Subnautica.
I can't wait for Subnautica 2. It's not coming out until 2025.
They made an expansion.
They did, yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take that to WoF at some point, so I have an excuse to put time into it. And then Alex writes, what I first thought, and actually until a couple of years ago, was that Minecraft is a crafting and resource management game, but I have come to see that it's actually more of a simulated environment with automatons in a way that sets it apart from other crafting/resource management games like, say, Forager. But at the same time, it has enough system flexibility, it doesn't become a game mostly about processes like Factorio or Space Chem. The real answer about Minecraft is it becomes whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of it, in my opinion, right? And Dennis posted this question to Reddit, and we got some response there. So let's do like 3 from those.
We have a couple of our regular listeners.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we do. Yeah. We're gonna get to Reddit ones next time. We just have so many responses here. Let's see, Moxie, what's Austin say?
Austin says, for me it was Hollow Knight. The Metroidvania genre always seems like one big, long, get one more thing you have to do before you can go home ever. But after a couple of friends forced me to play it, Hollow Knight is now in my top 10 games of all time. And I can't stop playing Metroidvanias. Please, someone send help.
The problem...
I mean, we would send help, but you need to have the double jump in order to get that help.
You're inaccessible to us.
Right.
Yeah. The problem is you played the best one first. So like it's going to be really hard to beat that. It's like me with
Cookie
Exit.
cutter.
Yeah. And Jala, what does Scott Michael say?
Scott Michael says, back in the day when I fired up a first-person shooter, it was to relax and have some mindless fun just trying to get from point A to point B while gunning down anything in my way and occasionally devouring or detouring. Maybe I'm hungry. To complete some random objective. Then BioShock changed everything. That was the first game of its kind that made me stop and really observe the environments, that made me hunt for every piece of audio I could find to hear more pieces of the story, and that forced me to treat enemy encounters like puzzles I had to think quickly to solve. Even then, I was just enjoying the ride. I'll never forget being caught completely off guard by those shocking back-to-back Ryan and Atlas moments. No game has ever made me think that hard about the limited freedom we have in games because we still have to play by its rules to drive the story forward. Then, after the major reveal, the final act and end boss all became extremely video gamey. I hate to sound like that person, but this game was art. It was an experience. BioShock didn't just change how I felt about that genre, but it ruined pretty much all video games for me, because ever since then, I'm almost always looking for the clues that will help me figure out some major plot twists that may or may not even exist. In short, once in a while a game's story may still shock me, but it will never BioShock me. I'll see myself out.
Yeah, you best do that. Don't you
Especially given who's reading the response. Oh, the facepalm.
I didn't plan that, but I couldn't have planned it better.
You couldn't have planned it better.
So we've only got, 3 more? Do we want to just speedrun them?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, let's speedrun them. Ben, what does Keyboat say?
Keyboat says, Superhot kind of ruined a lot of FPS for me.
Yeah, breaking it down to its elements and forcing you to think about it moment to moment. Yeah, Superhot is a very special game.
Similar Nectarine.
Less Twitch, more
one.
John Wick.
Right.
Similar Nectarine. Sorry, what's up?
That one was above Keyboat.
Yes, I will pick Similar Nectarine, who says Doki Doki Literature Club surprised me. Starting as a cute dating sim, became a mind-bending horror game, made me think completely differently about horror games and how they can be unpredictable.
On a similar note, Hnefatafl Boyfriend is also one of those visual novels that just kind of throws you completely for a loop when you get to a certain point in it. Not the same way, but...
The greatest contribution Doki Doki Literature Club gave to me is me knowing what Doki Doki means whenever I hear it in like anime.
Oh yeah, that's an old one. Goes back to Doki Doki Panic, the game that Mario 2 was after. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a heartbeat sound. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. That was me, and then Moxie round us out with Halberd Watcher.
Howard Watcher says, Moon Factory 4 managed to take farming sim and RPG and mesh them in a way that I feel has never been outdone. Coming from all other farming sims being as peaceful as possible, it was a nice surprise.
That's the one that's held up. That's the one that's been remade the most, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never got into those, but people really, really seem to love them.
Yes, they do.
There's one more from Noxagenius, I think.
Yes. Ben, what does Noxagenius say?
Noxagenius says, Spec Ops: The Line. I've never thought a military shooter could have a deep philosophical story, but this game made me realize that, yes, it can. It's unfortunately one of the only few examples.
Yeah. You get something like Call of Duty 4 putting quotes from Gandhi and Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld kind of next to each other. But I'm kind of surprised that more studios haven't tried to take a page from that book. But then again, given how Spec Ops: The Line sold, bleh. Well, we've had a couple of weeks of not having very many multiplayer responses, so I feel fine doing all of those. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. This was a topic that inspired a lot of people. And thank you, Dennis, for posting that and for copying over some of those Reddit responses. Sorry, I was scattered and went all over the order that they were put in. But yeah, if you want to participate in these, go to the Duckfeed community group on Facebook and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games and how we feel about them. I'm going to do mine first because it's big, it's positive, and there isn't a whole lot to say about it besides, boy, a thing happened. The push for unionization has slowly been picking up in the video game industry. Activision Blizzard testers have been unionized, which is good. Sega, some of their divisions have been unionized, but the biggest win yet for the labor movement in games has happened at Bethesda. Bethesda Game Studios has approved unionization wall to wall. So it is not just a particular division. It is literally everybody under the umbrella of Bethesda now can bargain collectively. They're recognized by the Communication Workers of America, the CWA, and it is 450 people that were brought in under this. And the good news question mark, obviously negotiations are ongoing and the process is adversarial because that is the way you get results. But Microsoft has recognized it. So this is just great. Fuck yeah. Set an example. Let a million flowers bloom or whatever people say. Unionize. Please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, it's great to have some good news to report on.
It is. Sadly, it means we're probably going to end on a little bit of a bummer because the other stories are, of the world today. No, we can end on the other unionization one. Jala, you shared yours first, but let's end on that because that is also, I believe, good and hopeful. Let's see here. Let's get the most negative one out of the way here. Hey, David, what's Gamergate 2 trying to do?
Yeah, so they're super pissed that it's not historically accurate, maybe, that in Assassin's Creed Shadows, one of the playable characters is a black samurai named Yasuke? So he definitely was a historical person. The question is whether he was a samurai. Like whether he was technically a samurai. We're just talking super technicality here.
He was one of Nobunaga's trusted retainers. Like,
right.
Literally, this is just racist trying to gerrymander and like literally just kind of complain about DEI up to and including Elon Musk saying DEI kills art. To which I have to say, fuck everybody who cares about this.
Right.
Yeah.
And they even have, it's actually pretty interesting. Like they even have an historian who basically actually pushes up his things is like the fact that Nobunaga gave him a sword and paid him a stipend means that he at least definitely considered him a samurai. Although it's probably accurate to say that his enemies probably didn't consider him a samurai.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, that's some there is a difference between like historian has nuance versus racist dude is like black people in my video games.
Yeah.
The game is allowing you to play as a black samurai, and combining this with the Netflix anime and listening to Flying Lotus while you're doing it, it's like, do you not like good things? Like what?
Yes.
It's just assholes being racist is what it is. And, something troubling that happens in white supremacist circles, which is using Japan and trying to defend the purity and historical heritage of Japan as a proxy for whiteness. Holding them up as a model minority or whatever. Like it's a whole bunch of gross shit. Let me also raise that maybe historically, in the past, Ben Franklin was not a gadget maker for the Order of Assassins. Maybe people like Benjamin Church or Jonathan Pitcairn were not associated with an ancient conspiracy of Templars. Going back a little bit further, I do not believe that the Marquis de Sade or Leonardo da Vinci were associated with a conspiracy of assassins. Even before you get to the maybe you shouldn't be so angry that a black person is in your media, holding up anything about Assassin's Creed and saying it's disqualified because it's historically accurate is just beclowning yourself.
So my favorite inaccuracy, just because it's so weird, is in I think Assassin's Creed Unity, the head of the mercenaries in actual history is most famous for being anti-mercenary.
Yep.
Like, that was the whole thing he's known for in history.
Yeah. And maybe the Borgias, including the Borgia Pope, did not gain their power from a golden apple that comes from ancient aliens that also happen to be the gods of Eden.
I mean, we don't know that's not true.
Okay. The historical record is incomplete here. I guess what I'm saying is it's way more important that these are just assholes trying to find any legitimacy for literally just reflexively knee-jerk saying that they don't want to see black people in their video games. And we shouldn't let them distract us. Literally, this is just racism.
Yeah, I mean, not to beat the dead horse, but like, I didn't hear any of them complaining when Yasuke shows up in Neo 2. It's only when it's like a character you might play as that they had a problem.
Yasuke is one of the most beloved characters in like Japanese historical fiction. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous.
I was going to say, the irony is, since it's an Assassin's Creed game, like 60% chance it's probably not that interesting of a game. They could just protest on that.
True. Yeah. It'll just end up being like when Stellar Blade came out and they thought, oh, because they censored they censored some of the costumes and we can't see every square inch of labia. Either the woke video game people are going to give it a bad review or a good review. It was very confused, and then it was like a 7 or 8 out of 10 game that people were like, yeah, there's some stuff to like here, and then it was nothing. God, these people make me really angry because they're just pathetic. I don't know. Fuck Grumps.
Do you want to hear about somebody who won't make you angry?
Yes, tell me about something sweet happening with Stardew Valley.
Yeah, this is just a short, happy story, which is just Concerned Ape put out a tweet where he's basically doing his "Don't be evil" that Google did. He put out a tweet that said, "Screenshot this. I'm never going to charge for DLC in the future, and if I do, then bring this up." And it's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, man.
A little bit less extreme than I will cut my own head off if Resident Evil 4 comes to any system but the GameCube. But
I am still kind of salty about that.
I mean, it's been the model for 8 years now for Stardew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to hear. And that person, Concerned Ape, has made more money than God, one assumes. So. Yeah, I hope so too. They made something that millions of people love. So
I just feel so bad because every time I hear his name, I think of was it Bored Apes or whatever?
Oh yeah. Concerned Ape came before that, so you can't hold that against them.
Oh yeah, I don't hold it against him. I just feel bad.
Yeah. And Jala, let's get to your story. Let's round out on a more hopeful note here.
Sure. So SAG-AFTRA empowered their chief negotiator to declare an immediate strike if a deal about AI productions cannot be reached with video game companies. Last year in September, a strike was authorized but never called into action. So the union is trying to update the interactive media agreement in order to grant members protections against AI usage, as well as negotiating wage increases. Now, the thing about this is that talks have been ongoing since 2022, and both of the sides remain far apart in terms of resolution. So it was threatened last year, but was never actually gone through. I don't know if the SAG-AFTRA strike that happened against movies and such now, like not being a factor, will change things for the video game folks that are involved. So we will see. Now, I did see something in the news today about Activision Blizzard using AI, like already cutting a bunch of jobs and using AI for concept art and stuff like that in a lot of their games. So certainly some big companies are already replacing humans with AI. So, SAG-AFTRA needs to be doing this and needs to actually go on strike in order for their defense for themselves. And while it's great that there are some companies that are backing the unions and things like that, which they should, it's still going to be kind of like a dirty, dragged out fight. So... Yeah. But at least SAG-AFTRA has already cleared, abundantly cleared. I think it was 98% of the people voted or something to authorize this. So, hopefully that will help give them some bargaining power.
Yeah, this was something where the interactive arm of SAG-AFTRA felt shafted. As the bargain was struck for the film and television side. Yeah. The interactive side felt kind of sidelined in that, and the kind of rush to make a deal, and just kind of there were a bunch of terms that were kind of left TBA or unaddressed in the 2023 strike. And so this is this is good that at least this one sector might be able to put some pressure. I can see some argument for the fact that these are different companies, at least for now, right? Consolidation is a thing, but this is good news and it's a step in the right direction. And, it was a little bit shitty that the interactive folks were left behind in that regard.
Yeah, well, certainly for companies such as Activision Blizzard, which are already actively aggressive to their own employees and replacing them with AI.
Yes.
Those companies definitely need to, and those are like big companies that they need to be focusing on here. So
something I get upset about is the general pejorativeness that is used around the word Luddite. Like, oh, you think Luddite, like, oh, this is somebody who just doesn't get technology or whatever. Like, the Luddites were that was a labor movement.
Oh, yeah.
They were very specifically not angry that the machines existed, but they were angry that the machines existed as something that capital could invest in order to eliminate their jobs. They were righteously upset about being replaced and marginalized because it was a broader expression of capital exerting its will, literally to automate their jobs away. People call anybody who speaks out against AI Luddites, to which I should say, fuck yeah. Like, should wear that label with pride, I believe, because they're not standing against progress. They're standing for progress.
Yep.
Right.
But it's still broadly good news. I hope they strike the hell out of them. Make them feel it where it hurts.
Yep.
Cool. Well, is there anything else we want to say about that?
Nope.
Okay. How do we feel about buttoning it up?
Buttons.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to level number 509. We're getting up there. We're almost to 600. I mean, broadly.
Rounding up, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, we're chipping away at it. I mean,
we appreciate you listening. If you want to help us out, you know what you can do. You can leave ratings or reviews. You can participate in the multiplayer by going to the Duckfeed community group on Facebook. Support us on Patreon. You get cool stuff in addition to just supporting the network. Bonfireside Chat is back. That came back on the 21st, just this past Sunday. As you're listening to it, we're talking about Shadow of the Erd Tree and having a good time about it too. That's a really good DLC. Jala, what is happening over at Jala's place? Jala-chan's place? I'm sorry.
Jala-chan's place.
Jala-chan's place. There we go. I apologize.
Yeah, so as mentioned at the top of the show, we have the most recent episode, which is on the LUNAR video games, LUNAR The Silver Star and LUNAR Silver Star Story Complete. First episode of that is releasing the same day that this episode drops, so it is already going to be out there in your podcast feeds for your listening pleasure, and the second section of that will be released next Friday, so give that a listen. Also, you can check me out talking about The Predator movie, and a fun story about what I did as a kid with my sister that relates to Predator, which is a silly story indeed, on the Nostalgium Arcanum podcast as well. And of course, I have tweeted out links on all of my socials, so you can find it there.
Yeah. Let's see. Dennis isn't here to promote his stuff, but Deck of Wonders has an expansion coming out. Do a search on Kickstarter for that. To support that, I believe the campaign launches on August the 1st. That is both for the expansion and for the reprint of the base Deck of Wonders game. It's a free plug that Dennis got there. Yeah. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
No.
All right. I have been Kole Ross. Find me on Blue Sky at Kole Ross.
I've been Moxie. Just find me somewhere.
I'm Jala-chan in all the places I may be found, including Jala-chan.place, where you can find my other podcast.
And I've been Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles.
Okay. Darts made out of jeans. And meat moss.
Okay.
One word.
I have 2 from the beginning. I have how was that wind? And I have please don't ask for the moon. Okay. Ben, what do you have?
I have nothing.
Okay. Moxie, what do you have?
So I feel bad. I only have something I said.
Okay.
Which was the deep went woke.
Of these, the one that I feel best about is darts made out of jeans.
I support this.
Yeah. Let's do
It's
that.
very evocative.
Hooray.
Very
Finally,
tactile name.
Something that I said became a thing for once. Yay!
You've had a couple here recently.
Every once in a while, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is.
Now I'm going to have to figure out if I can make darts out of jeans.
Well,
I mean-
I'm sure you can.
I mean, you can make a dart out of any fabric. It's just a way to expand, space at a at a crease,
good point.
right?
Good point.
Or a
I
seam.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, that is one of the few tailoring terms that I know.
Yeah.
All right, it is decided.